I'm I'm speaking with Cristina Pato, who will be visiting Santa Barbara. I remember her visit with the Silk Road Ensemble in 2013, and the press said essentially that you lit that room on fire, and you certainly did. Now you're coming back to Santa Barbara on the 13th of May under UCSB Arts and Lectures sponsorship at Campbell Hall, Wednesday, May 13th, 8 o'clock in the evening. The tickets are ridiculously cheap. $25 general admission, $10 for students. And the telephone number in Santa Barbara, I do this little video goes out all over Southern California. So the telephone number for tickets is area code 805 in Santa Barbara, 893-3535. Very quickly, Wednesday, May 13th, not to be missed. Cristina Pato Quartet. They're going to play apparently more than one tune from their new album Latina, and I hope Cristina will speak to me a little bit about Latina, what that means. Let's see, 8 o'clock, Campbell Hall, Wednesday, May 13th. A great pleasure chatting with you. Are you in New York now, just now?
Yeah, New York, yes.
Hey,
For
by the way,
the first
Santa.
time in many months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes. The agony of being famous and touring.
Well, let's say the agony of being on tour constantly. Yeah, let's skip the other part.
Let's just talk a little bit. First of all, we are talking about Cristina Pato's amazing virtuosity on the gaita, the Galician bagpipe. Let's start there with just the question: what is the difference? What is this Galician bagpipe as opposed to what most people think of as the Scottish bagpipe? Can you give me just a brief little history of that?
Sure, and that's the most unique thing about this instrument. Depends on where you are in the world, people will have a completely different reference of what is actually a
Mm-hmm.
bagpipe. And in this country, the main connection is usually the British connection or
Yeah.
the Scottish connection. So let's say that bagpipes were shepherd instruments, and wherever there was a shepherd in the world, there was probably a kind of bagpipe. And if we think about the origin of the instrument, it actually doesn't go too far away from the Silk Road, which I am part of that ensemble too. But we have to think about the Mediterranean origin and the Persian tradition, probably, and then going up north through the many different cultures. But the reality is, depending on who you ask, they will have a completely different answer
Mm-hmm.
for you. And it became a very popular instrument in almost every corner of the world that had a kind of shepherdism. The main difference between the Galician and the Scottish one, let's say that the Scottish one had a military tradition that we didn't have in Galicia. In Galicia remains to be a popular instrument, a folkloric instrument just for the people, from the people, and that gives the repertory and the purpose of the music a completely different meaning. And if we think about the Scottish traditions, we have to think about marching music and music to do specific activities as you were part of the military. And in Galicia, is most of the time to dance.
Ah, thank you very much. And how civilized can a people be? And the history of Galicia is incredible because, again, thinking of Yo-Yo Ma and the Silk Road Ensemble, the whole idea of this incredible mix of cultures over historical time. Can you give me just a quick little overview? I mean, the Roman Empire, it was a province of the Roman Empire and then its own kingdom. Give me that a little bit.
I think that Galicia is one of these unique places in the world. And for the listeners and watchers, Galicia is in the northwest corner of Spain. It's right in the north of Portugal, this little Atlantic corner that Spain has. And before America was discovered, apparently the end of the world, Finisterre, was placed there. It was probably the most western part
Hmm?
of the world before this other side was discovered. So Galicia was this kind of place in the world that unless you wanted to be there, nobody had to pass through there. So that gave it a very unique feeling of loneliness, which actually brings us to the kind of music we also have for the other side. I mean, not for the
Mm-hmm.
dancing, the morning music.
Yeah.
The most beautiful thing about Galicia is because of the position we are in the map, we got a lot of connections through the Celtic Sea, actually, with the 7 Celtic nations, with Brittany, the French Brittany, Scotland, Ireland, and all the north of Spain. But also, if we think about the south of Spain and we think about the Muslim area of Spain, Al-Andalus, which was under Muslim domination for 800 years, they didn't officially get to Galicia, but they were very close. So there are some influences in there too. And then we have the Roman Empire, of course, and that goes back to the year probably 200 before Christ. And through that, and then the Catholic Kingdom, and then the many different cultures that were part of Galicia and of Spain, we have this beautiful capital of the world was Santiago de Compostela.
Yeah. A very big pilgrimage site, as I recall.
We have to think that maybe Santiago de Compostela was more or less like New York in the medieval ages, because it was some sort of the most fascinating cultural place in Europe. Everybody was coming there because the cathedral, supposedly Santiago the Apostle, St. James, was buried there, and people from the Catholic tradition and religions will come all around the world to Galicia, and which was, the way to Santiago de Compostela was more or less like the Silk Road with a religious content.
Yeah. By the way, I hope I'm not in trouble here, but I have an impression that the gaita has been a male instrument.
If we think about any kind of instrument in the world and the history of performing arts, we can say that for almost every instrument. But the reality is, yes, it was a male instrument, but it was for the same reasons that journalists were male, and it's part of our history, and we are dealing with that, hopefully. And in the next generation, that wouldn't be part of our conversation anymore. But the reality is today is probably the majority of bagpiper students in Galicia are women.
Oh, really?
Yes, it happens. And conservatories, and that's beautiful. I think the only thing that we are lacking of is the space to be good leaders in that room. But for me, that was actually the path that opened my career, and I have been for the last 17 years as a solo professional bagpiper to try to, how do you say it, redirect the conversation from being a woman playing bagpipes to just being a bagpiper.
Thank you. Oh, you're in the big city.
I am, and it's a small neighborhood, so you will get to hear them.
Someone's going by. And how about your training on gaita? I presume there in Spain, yeah, as a young child. What moment came to you that said, "This I've got to learn"?
You have to think that Galicia we have our own language and we have our own instrument, which is this bagpipe. But imagine a city like Ourense, which is where I was born in Galicia. Ourense has 100,000 people in it. 10,000 of them are involved in the bagpipe school, and that may give you an idea how popular is the instrument. And I am the youngest of 4 sisters. They started with the bagpipe when I was 4 years old, and I just follow my sisters.
That's incredible. And what I remember particularly, now let's speak about the style of the music making in the 21st century that is your quartet. And we've spoken about religious mixes, if you will, cultural mixes. Now we have this amazing combination of Latin music, jazz, pop, contemporary, especially in your new album, Latina. Let's can you jump into that for a little bit? Why? Because I know there's a specific reason about the title Latina, what Latina means, and also this wonderful homogeneous mix of fabulous rhythms and styles. And then I want to talk about this 6/8 meter in particular.
Well, Latina is, I think, is more or less a reaction to my life in the US, actually. I have been here for the last 10 years. And, when I am in Spain, usually people will say I am Galician. When I am touring Europe, people will say the Spanish bagpiper Cristina Pato. And in the US, I have had this beautiful mix of ways to call me. And most of the time, the way to call me was Latina, the Latina performer, the Latina bagpiper. And that actually fascinated me, because if we think about the origin of the word, which is what I am trying to tell in the album, and then we think about how the word has actually developed a very complex meaning in this country, and especially if you put it in the female gender instead of the male gender, then the meaning gets even more complex. And for me, that was very fascinating, and I was trying just to look for a positive way of addressing how can we redefine a word just with music. So I decided to explore what is the origin of the word. Well, let's go back to Italy and to Latin. And then I found that the Sicilian tarantella actually has exactly the same pattern as the Galician muñeira, and that is a 6/8 time. And then if we keep digging into Latin American music, most of the Latin American folkloric music is also based on that pattern. And it's not like you can trace a line, but I just decided to trace my own line of saying this is Latina.
Well, I think you explained yourself there, because of course I'm in Southern California, and when I think Latina, I think woman.
Yeah.
I don't think of in terms of a massive of a culture per se. I think in Spanish, I guess. And this business of rhythms. And by the way, let's talk just a little bit about how world encompassing is Latina. I'm speaking of the South American influences,
Actually, all started by. So I have this amazing band that is on this album, and it was on my previous album. And the bass player Edward Perez, who is from Texas, he has been playing for me for the last 4 years. And the first time we played together, actually, I asked him to accompany me on a Galician muñeira. And he started to like improvise under the melody, and it sounded really amazing, like really fascinating, but it didn't sound Galician at all. And but it sounded so familiar for me, and I was like, what is that about? What is the kind of rhythm that you're doing? And he mentioned the joropo, and then it made me connect everything to my father, who was a Galician immigrant to Venezuela, who used to play accordion in Venezuela and then came back to Galicia. And
Wow.
that was actually the original seed of this whole album, that Edward is specialized in Afro-Peruvian music, and I knew nothing about Peruvian music until I met him, and then we started discovering what are the amazing connections between all these countries, and I just wanted to keep digging and finding amazing rhythms that I haven't enjoyed before this album.
And let me just mention your three colleagues, and everybody who's watching, just go to YouTube, dial in Cristina Pato, and you are going to be thrilled, because there is a contagious excitement and energy to your playing in particular. But these are first world class musicians. Victor Prieto, the accordionist, amazing. Edward Perez, double bass. Wow, the improvisation, and he's written a suite, hasn't he? A suite on the new album of some sort. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Latina suite.
he actually wrote half of the music of this album. Hold on, my FaceTime is. But half of the music of this album is written by him, and the other half is actually arranged by him. He is like my new right hand in this Latina city, and then Eric Dube on the drums, who's an amazing drummer, and all of them are New Yorkers from somewhere else in the world, as I am, and all of them have inside them this unique combination of love for many different languages.
Yeah, and just the energy, Eric in particular, what precise, superb drumming. I hate to use the word even, but what superb musicianship. Likewise, all of you. So
I think what I have is a dream team combination of high energy like Victor and myself, amazing imagination as Edward, and then Eric Dube speaks like with the most precise or I joke with it saying like it's like somebody is all the time speaking with perfect diction, and that is exactly what he
That
does
is.
when he's playing, and in the way
That
he tries to discover a new rhythm, like rhythms that he wasn't familiar with, like the currulao or the fandango or the joropo, is the way he this how do you say it, like when you put all the dots separated and then you put them back together. That's it's just unbelievable. I learned so much from all of them.
Yeah, and you said I think you used the word articulation, and that was that not only in another meaning is your band articulate, but the clean articulation of all of you and the improvisation. Your improvisation on the gaita is absolutely incredible. As are they're all three improvisatory in the jazz sense, musicians, just superb. I want to thank. I'm going to give the information again, but can you give me just you're going to have the Santa Barbara is so lucky. We're going to get a treat of the album Latina the day before its official release. We're going to get a little. I'm sure the place is going to be a party place, Campbell
I
Hall.
hope so.
You know, and then you have the big coming out CD party in New York a couple days later. So I mean, Santa Barbara is lucky to be kind of on your radar at that particular time. Can you give me as a finale, and then I'm going to repeat the information if you'll bear with me on that. A little. Can you give me just a little overview, maybe even philosophically, about what an audience experiences when they walk into that room with you and now this incredible quartet of yours?
I mean, probably I am the wrong person to answer that, but I can explain you the kind of journey I try to take the audience to, and the kind of journey is discovering what are the connections between all the cultures in the world. And the bagpipe is probably the best metaphor for that, because as I was mentioning to you, there are bagpipes everywhere. And,
Yeah.
and if we think about breaking up stereotypes, the first stereotype I try to break is what is exactly a bagpipe. And I can assure you that after 10 minutes in the show, you will forget that you are in a bagpipe show and the bagpipe is being played by a woman. You just enjoy the music and enjoy the energy of
Yeah.
this amazing band that I get to have.
I can speak to that just even from Silk Road Ensemble. When you came on stage in 2003 at the very same hall, the energy of your being is
Oh,
incredible. Very, very exciting. I can guarantee that the audience that sees you and now this spectacular quartet that you have assembled, it's going to be magic, absolute magic. Once more, the information. Thanks for bearing with me. Cristina Pato Quartet, playing on May 13th, that's Wednesday, May 13th, under UCSB Arts and Lectures sponsorship at Campbell Hall on the University of California, Santa Barbara campus, 8 o'clock in the evening. Tickets, ridiculous. $25 general admission, $10 for students. Pay attention, students. $10 to have an evening that is going to stay with you for a long, long time. Just the energy level is going to take 3 or 4 days to unwind the audience from. Telephone number in Santa Barbara for tickets for this amazing concert coming up Wednesday, May 13th. Cristina Pato Quartet, the debut of her new CD Latina. Telephone number in Santa Barbara, area code is 805. There it is. Look at that. Yeah. Area code 805. Look at that smile. 893 3535. Christina, thank you very, very much indeed for giving me a few moments of your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 13th.
thank you so much, and
Sure.
thank you so much for this interview. See you
Yeah.
soon.
Right.
Very soon.
Bye
Bye.
bye.